Thanks so much for having me here. I feel lucky to be with this, and I'm excited to present to you. I'm a little bit behind some of the other groups because I got a late start on the whole process, so please excuse me. Hana, I like to think of it as an integrated ecosystem that empowers a vital, cultural, and sustainable world by helping volunteer-based companies and organizations better connect with volunteers, students, and merchants. It's the three groups that we connect that I think make it stronger than connecting just two of them. My name is Vance. I moved here in 1966, went to public schools, graduated from Kennedy High School, went to UH. Moved up to the mainland for my career. I moved back here 7 years ago. I developed and lead creative and technical teams for the creation of elegant experiences. I've done it for Microsoft, Sony, Adobe. I created a #1 app for Disney. And I created a very innovative app with Polynesian Voicing Society and the Honolulu Public Charter Schools called the Honolulu My Voyage. I try to combine great design and the latest technology to make an impact. It's what I try to do. Daniel Kinzer is the partner that I've been working with. He's not here today. His stream is the Pacific Blue Studios, and there's some great overlap in what we were doing. We were both trying to figure out how to contribute what we did, and we ended up with kind of like two different ideas, but in the end they merged together and they worked together for both of us to succeed. Kaipo is a friend of mine. He's a culture advisor in tech, and Ben is a long-term tech partner of mine, and they're both involved on this side as well. I've been involved in teaching along Honolulu, the app, and being a volunteer around town on lots of different things, including the Friends of Hōkū. I stand on every Saturday morning, and I'm a crew member on Hōkū, and I sail on PBS as well. And so I'm kind of thinking about this whole idea of volunteerism, and also thinking about how we can help give the tools to people who are trying to do good work. So as we were starting this, and we really wanted to solve these problems, we started asking ourselves, how do you grow a movement? How do you get people to connect with their communities? How do you teach students in new meaningful ways? And how do you support the organizations that are already working towards these amazing things? We saw that there were people who choose to Hana on things that they were truly passionate about, living outside on the edge of our economic system on purpose. And we wondered, how can we help reward them and help sustain them in what they choose to do? And we also saw that there's these orgs that have this huge pool of volunteers, but they're not really utilizing them because they lose contact with them or don't know how to do it, and they only reward like the last 12 people that they saw instead of thinking about the bigger picture. We also see these organizations trying really hard to associate themselves with sustainability and cultural revitalization, and thought about how could we help them more directly connect with the people who feel the same way. How could they amplify their brand? And then we also saw the impact that volunteers really have. So we thought, what if we created a platform, one that enabled relational transactions in both volunteerism and education? And what would that look like? If instead of just solving the solution between merchants and orgs, and the students and the merchants, and the orgs and the volunteers, we actually connected them all together. And where would we start? You have to think about that. You just can't create a solution like this at one thing. So we said, what if we started by solving this problem first? That orgs need a simple and powerful tool to manage their volunteers. We require the volunteers to use it, make them part of the system by having them do data entry, allow for powerful, intelligent searches for the orgs to find qualified help. We create an integrated training component that awarded merit badges for progress. And then, once it was all set up, we open it up for orgs to share their pools of volunteers with others and help volunteers find meaningful ways to contribute at their highest level to the orgs that they believe in. It turns out that the orgs that need volunteers are the same orgs that are providing learning opportunities to schools. And if you're a student, you can earn educational credits as well. Credits that you can earn service hours, scholarships, or grants. And how would we do it? We're going to use existing tech and combine it in novel ways. Basically, the core of the CRM, and we have a companion app that connects everything together so they can send out alerts. Each org can create events and send out these alerts to specific groups of people with specific skills or interests. The GPS part of it can help you auto-log hours and even allows for your own self-motivated activities such as beach cleanups. But the key is that every time you volunteer at something, you earn points, and it goes into your point bucket. And these merchants then can reward you with their products and services for your points. Or, if you're really benevolent, you can give it back to the organization, or somebody can use it more than you. There's other people that are doing this, but they're only really solving one part of the problem, and that's just, connecting volunteers to things. So right now, we're working on our 50 interviews to completely understand the situation with each of our stakeholders. And we're getting enthusiastic responses from people like Pam Midyar or Lee, like Hōkū at PBS. So is Debbie Richards at Team Hōkū at Hawaiian Airlines.
It's good to see that.
And we need to understand where we're at is we need to understand where we need to get seed money. We're willing to do all that work for free to get there, but we can't do it for too long. We need to identify the developer and the system that we might want to build on, and talk to the merchants about their involvement. But in the end, the first thing that we'll do is help orgs manage their volunteers. Then we'll help volunteers do their most meaningful work. But ultimately, we'll create an alternative economic system driven by relationship-based transactions and an educational system based on community work and sustainability efforts.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So I keep on trying. Anyways, judges, questions?
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
And Alana. I love your name because my husband also is Dan. But wondering if you could share more about the merchant engagement within the three, like what, beyond the brand, what is their motivating factor to participate?
Well, I was talking to one actually about this yesterday, and when they sponsor an event, a lot of times what they do is they give the organization money and they just put up a banner, right? They're trying to connect with the people who are involved, right? But they're not really. People just see the sign. This way, if they're giving them points, frequent flyer miles, they require them to become frequent flyers, and then they grow their user base of those things. People like Hōkū, they connect with the people who are their brand. I mean, they're trying to sell to those people, and so they can give slippers for 8 hours in the Hōkū, and really it's only 1/10 of their value, of that work value, but at the same time, the people feel rewarded and part of a bigger thing.
So I have your customer interviews, you're talking about your physical key customer interviews.
Yeah.
Who are you interested in doing about that? Are you talking to the merchants, or are you talking, who are you targeting?
I'm talking to mostly organizations right now. The Hōkū is she manages all of the volunteers and crew for sailing for PBS. And so she's my first target really because what I'd like to be able to do is get them using the system, and then every city that they go to on the Pacific tour is to be able to introduce the system to the organizations that they're going to meet already and give them that gift and create this wake of empowering these organizations in the Pacific. I've also talked to Pam Midyar. She's not only a volunteer with PBS, but she's helping me to understand where I need to get to be able to talk to people about growing this idea. And then I have a meeting with Ile Kavelu at IPI next week, and I'm talking to Debbie Richards at Team Hōkū, and that's another interesting side of things. It's like the companies have their own volunteer pools that they need to manage as well, and so I think that's just another opportunity. And then there's schools as well. I've been talking to Denise at the Hōkū Public Charter School as well as her music chair of the board.
And yeah, this is really cool. I think just two considerations, particularly since some of my work now is looking in the volunteer space, is just to your point, like there's a lot of schools that are looking for something like this. There's a ton of students that they give out like tuition towards. They have to earn hours, so I think that would be a great place. And then two, you consider when you're looking at the different volunteers, sometimes it could be kind of sensitive to like child safety and whatnot. And so how do you ensure some of the volunteers that are going through the app have that necessary background check to be doing the work that they're doing, whether it's like a safety issue related or
Any kind of related thing. And to me, that vetting of volunteers is a big part of it. You have to be able to kind of lock it out until a person is vetted, right? And whether or not we allow like virtual vetting at some point, where you can apply to be a volunteer someplace and allow that to happen digitally or not, I think that that's an important part of the eventual solution.
One more question.
Chelsea Harder from Hawaii Green Growth. I'm just really curious because this is kind of a nut that a lot of volunteer organizations have wanted to crack in terms of how to get an app centralized with all these different partners. And my question centers around UI UX, so what's the user interface and experience going to be like? And then metrics that you're tracking. So is that going to be through perhaps geolocation or photos or videos? Like, will it center around storytelling, or is it more like hours of community service? Or I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
The UI UX part of it, I think, is key because most of these organizations that want to manage their volunteers, they can't afford a full-time person. You know, if you want somebody who manages sales force, those people are going to cost you $85,000 a year. And what organization has somebody that can afford to have that person? So I think the key of it is really designing a solution that's simple and uses the volunteers themselves to enter data. So in other words, I just entered a new field. It's just like update your insurance status. You know, that's what some of the PBS needs. You have health insurance, right? Right? You send out that alert to people, and then they have to enter that information themselves. They're prompted to do it, and it's part of their queue when they open the app. Then to answer your next question, the idea of using GPS to make it as simple as possible for people to log their time and their activity. So in other words, you get invited to an event, you accept it. It's on your calendar. Gives you the link to the map, how to get there. And when you arrive, because of the GPS and the fact that it knew where you were going, it says, you've arrived, right? Start your clock, right? And when you leave, it stops your clock. You know, you could have things like QR codes at the events too, where people have to log in with a QR code with their camera for specific events. If you're doing Hōkū at Pai Pai, I'm a Hōkū guy today, I'm hauling rocks, you know, these people are building the balls are earning more points. They're more highly skilled. So I think that you could create a system that kind of tracks all that stuff. And then when other fish ponds need Hōkū wall builders, those people are in the database, and you can put out the alerts to them, we're having a Hōkū event, and so can you do that?
Great, thank you guys.
Thank you.